Hello, I'm Mike and this is Will. We are the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And we're bringing you issue 44 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol today, where this issue came with two new paints, Astrogranite Texture Paint and Administratum Grey Layer Paint, as well as a texture spreader, so you can apply our new texture paint to our models. And in today's game we'll be going back to one of the previous issues to play another of the missions we haven't seen so far, once again with the Tyranids and the Space Marines. Looking through the issue first, we have some new painting tutorials, first on dry brushing. Dry brushing is a very simple technique that's great on things with lots of texture. The way to do it is you will load up your brush and then wipe off most of it on a bit of tissue, as you can see in the example, and then you lightly flick it across the model you're painting at an angle so that it catches all the raised edges and highlights them. And so it's a very quick but fairly messy way of highlighting raised areas, or you can use it on flatter areas to give things a more weathered appearance if you do a circular motion as you apply the paint. Although there are a few things to note, like you should try not to overload the brush because it can make things a bit too stark, or highlight the model in such a way that it sort of detracts from the base colour, but you can simply fix that by going over the original colour and any washes and then doing the highlight again. And this is quite messy and can clog up the brush, so you need to make sure you properly clean the brush after it's finished. And you do probably want to use either an old brush or a dedicated dry brush, because it will ruin regular brushes fairly quickly. And another technique of basing using the texture paint and our texture spreader. So you can see it's got two ends. The large end is more suitable for larger areas and the small end is for trying to get into smaller areas or onto just smaller bases in general. So you want to load up the texture tool, apply it to a large area of the base and then use the ends to spread it out until you get the whole base completely covered. The texture paints are effectively just a regular paint but with grit added, so you want to shake it up so it's nice and mixed or the grit will pool at the bottom. And when you are painting near the model, you do need to be a little bit careful to try and not get any paint on the model itself, but you can wipe that away with a wet brush if you have that on hand. So in this example of painting an Infernus Marine, it suggests to base coat the base with Mechanicus Standard Grey first, so that if you miss any bits of the texture then they won't stand out. Then you put the texture paint on and move it around to get a nice effect, and once it's dried you can shade it with non and then dry brush it with Administratum Grey to pick out the details. And once that's done, you can neaten up the ridge of the base with some Abaddon Black. And then going over some of the models with more detailed bases. So the Farseer, you don't really need to use the texture tool, you can just paint it grey and then dry brush it. Similar with the Captain. And some of the Tyranid models have some rocks on their bases as well that they're built into. And then things like the Chaplain and the Wraith Lord, who has his own textured base already. The Psychophage is a large base, so it'll take a bit longer. And the Dark Apostle as well. So yeah, once you've picked out all the rocks that are already on their bases, you can then apply the texture and then wash and dry brush them all at once. And there's going over a few more details like bulk casings on the Captain's base, any bits of machinery or pipe work, and any bones, and then the architectural detail you can go over with Wraithbone and then apply appropriate washes like Reikland Flesh Shade for any casings, Nornal for mechanical bits. It's also part of the dead Tyranid on the Captain's base, and Agrax Earth Shade for any bone parts. You can see once the base is done, the model will start looking very complete, and these look pretty good at this point. They certainly look a bit weird having a nicely painted model on a completely bare base. Then with some more background on the Orcs, going over Gork and Mork, the twin gods of the Orcs. So you have Gork, who is very brutal but also a bit cunning, and Mork, who is cunning but a bit brutal. And they effectively are the personification of their species' philosophy. So the Gork approach is to be direct, is to charge the enemy and smack them until they stop moving, but they are cunning enough to buy big melee weapons to smack things with. Whereas the Morkis approach is to sneak up on the enemy and hit them when they aren't looking. So orcs have an almost divine inspiration or compulsion to seek out combat, and some particular orcs, known as the Weird Boys, can harness it into sort of crazed, psychic, cackling energy, and their approach to technology is to make all sort of weird and wacky contraptions with which to destroy the enemy. And then some more background on the technology of the setting. So going over ranged weapons. Obviously each faction will have its own technology. They'll make weapons to suit themselves. Standard weapons aren't the most powerful, but obviously the easiest to mass produce and maintain, and so are often issued to frontline troops. To give some examples like the lasgun of the Astra Militarum or the pulse rifles of the Tau. But everyone will make some use of special and heavy weapons. So special weapons are usually designed for either fighting against heavy infantry like plasma weapons, or fighting at long distance. So you've got sniper weapons, or flamers for attacking bunkers and massed infantry. So for some examples, you've got the plasma incinerator of the Space Marines and the Orc burner. And then some more elite and veteran troops will be issued heavy weapons, which again are either suited for firing at mass enemy formations or attacking light vehicles and aircraft, such as the Soul Reaper cannon of the Thousand Suns and the Magna Rail rifle of the Lees of Votan. And Now we're up to part 11 of Bonds of Honour, the Sergeant Askerton's endless quest to retrieve his lost bolt rifle, where him and his brethren have crash-landed on an orc-infested planet, where they'll have to deal with some sneaky green-skinned commandos, and some strange deathcopters, as they're called, the bizarre orcish contraptions that fly through the air. But now I'll hand you over to Will, when we got some few more of the core rules to learn, and he'll take us into today's game.
So before we get to our game, we do have some more of the core rules to look at, and these ones are for aircraft. And I'm mostly just going to skim over this because we don't actually get any aircraft with the collection. You'll only need these rules if you expand your collection to include some. But aircraft, as you might expect, fly high above the battlefield and move very quickly. And so there are special rules for deploying them and for how they move. Some of them also have a rule called hover, so they can turn into a slightly more conventional unit, although they lose some of their benefits of being aircraft when they do so. And they also interact slightly differently to other models in that you can sometimes move units through them because they would realistically be up high above the battlefield and not blocking anything. And also you can't attack them in melee except with other units that can fly. And there's an example of how they work at the bottom. And then something else you don't need to know if you're only playing Combat Patrol is how to muster an army for the full game of Warhammer 40,000. I will go over this briefly because you may want to start playing larger games with your collection, and this will be useful for that. So there are 6 steps. You start off by selecting the battle size, and this is done in what are called points. Every unit costs a certain number of points, and then you create an army adding up the total points of your units up to a points limit that's agreed. And there are different set sizes. There's Incursion, which is up to 1,000 points, Strike Force up to 2,000, and Onslaught up to 3,000 points, and it gives you a rough estimate of how long a game of that size will take. There are no points presented in Combat Patrol because they're all fixed armies, but if you want to find the points that your models cost, you can download a document from the Warhammer community website called the Munitorum Field Manual, and the latest one will tell you how much all your units cost. It says the details of your army must be recorded on an army roster, which is a piece of paper where you write it all down, or using the Warhammer 40,000 app. I think in practice most people are happy that you have done your adding up correctly, and although if you're playing in a tournament or something, then you will want to have a written down list. And then you select an army faction, which I suppose is a technical step where you write down what faction you're playing. Then you select your detachment rules, which are a bit like how in Combat Patrol you have faction rules. There are different army sub-rules that you can take, depending on exactly how you want your army to operate. Then you select all the units that you want. Your army must include at least 1 character unit, and you can only have up to 3 of any unit unless it has the battle line keyword or it's a dedicated transport. For those you can have up to 6. And just like in Combat Patrol, armies can have enhancements, and you can't have more than 3 enhancements in total. And epic heroes, which are usually named characters, can't have enhancements. And finally you select your warlord, which again, like in Combat Patrol, you have a warlord who leads your army, but in a full game you can select who it is rather than having it pre-decided. But obviously, as you'll note, none of that is actually going to be relevant for our games in the magazine. So for our game for this issue, we'll be playing the next one of the Combat Patrol missions, which is number 4, Scorched Earth, which we received in issue 42, so you can go back and check our video on that if you want a full description. But we'll set up the battlefield, go quickly over the mission rules, and then get straight into the game. So we've set up a battlefield for Mission 4, Scorched Earth. You can see there are 4 objectives arranged in a sort of parallelogram in the middle. They're specific distances away from the centre and the centre lines, which you can find on the mission description. And there are triangular deployment zones on the left and on the right, stretching from the corner of the board to the centre. The basic mission rules are that there are 5 victory points for controlling one objective, 5 victory points for controlling more than the opponent, and 10 victory points if you raise an objective, which you can do by controlling it at the start of your command phase. If you raise an objective, it's removed from the battlefield, but that turn you do score 10 points for doing so. You can't raise the objective closest to your own deployment zone, so that's objective 1 for the Tyranids and objective 4 for the Space Marines, or if there are enemies within 3 of it at the time. And we're playing Tyranids against Space Marines, once again because they're the only combat patrols we still have the full rules for, though that will change soon, so if you're bored of this matchup, then fear not. So having a look at the Space Marines, I have gone for the Librarian over the Chaplain, and he is joining the Terminators, Captain being by himself. So we've got the Terminators with the Librarian in the centre, the Captain on their right, and the Infernus Marines further down towards Objective 4. Captain will have the default enhancement, Champion Duelist, so he gets precision and lethal hits on his melee weapons, because while he's by himself, +1 OC isn't really that useful. And I've gone for the default secondary objective as well, Wrath of the Emperor, so in each phase in which the Captain kills a model, I get 2 victory points. And here we can see the Tyranid deployment in the other triangular deployment zone.
Yeah, so this terrain there is actually quite open, so I've deployed most of my stuff around a pink cargo container just to conceal it. So I've got the Psychophage with the unit of termagants, one Ryan's Leapers behind the cargo container with the Tyranid Prime and the Barbgaunts behind them, and then another unit of termagants just to go and secure Objective 1. I'm going to pick the default enhancement, the Psychostatic Veil, so it gives the Tyranid Prime the Lone Operative ability and a 4+ invulnerable save, and he's -1 to be hit in melee. But I'm going to choose the alternate secondary objective, Chitinous tied. So at the end of my turn, I'd score 5 VP if I control one or more objective markers within 6 of the opponent's deployment zone. And there are 2 options of that, I believe. Objectives 2 and 4 are within 6 of the Space Marine deployment zone. And considering the low number of Space Marine units, I think that should be doable.
So I'll give you another overview of the board. So that just leaves rolling off to see who gets the first turn. Well, I've rolled a 1 for the Space Marines.
And I rolled a 5.
So that means we'll be on to Tyranids turn 1.
I didn't actually want to go first. I'd want the Space Marines to come towards me a bit, but we're going to have to make do. The Psychophage has moved out, so it's just about in range of the Infernus Marines. Unit of Termagants advance to get into the cover and also contest the objective, which is under the Psychophage. Ryan's Leapers have moved a bit. The Tyranid Prime has moved so it can project its synapse range. Then the Barbed Gaunts have moved out so they can see the Terminators, and then the other unit of Termagants is just going to hold objective 1. And the Psychophage is going to fire its Psychoclastic Torrent at the Infernus Marines. D6 automatic hits, 6. Wounding on 3s because it's strength 6. They all wound, 6 wounds at -1 AP.
6 4+ saves because it ignores cover. Failed 5 of them. 2.5 Space Marines are dead. Instantly takes out 2 Space Marines and wounds another.
Then the next important shooting is going to be the Barbed Gaunts at the Terminators, and they can all just about see one of them. 5d6 shots, 19. Hitting on 4s because we moved. Well, that isn't a good roll. The important thing is that they hit, wounding on 4s. We got 2 wounds on the Terminators.
So 2+ saves. No, we didn't take any damage, but they will be suppressed, which is -2 move and charge and advance rolls.
The unit of Termagants at the bottom of the board was just about in range of the Infernus Marine, so they shot. 4 shots resulted in 2 wounds.
And so 2 3+ saves. Made those at least.
And you know what? The Psychophage might as well declare a charge on the Infernus Marines. It's going to be a 12, I think, essentially. But you can fight over the barricade, and if I do succeed, I might be able to take objective 4 away and get my secondary objective straight away. So we need a really big roll. More than a 6. I'm not going to re-roll it.
And that'll be the end of Tyranids turn 1, on to Space Marines turn 1. I'll put Oath of Moment on the Psychophage, and then I've moved the Infernus Marines out of cover towards it.
Yeah, but when they move, it's going to overwatch them. So D6 automatic hits. Oh, only 1. Wounds on a 3, it does. -1 AP.
4+, made it, phew. And then for the rest of my movement, the Captain can move his full distance onto objective 2, and the Terminator can only move 3, moving towards the centre of the board. So that brings us to the shooting phase. I'll do the Infernus Marines first, because the only thing they're in range of is the Psychophage. 3d6 automatic hits, 10, wounding on 5s. So that was 4 wounds.
4 3+ saves, made them all.
Then the Librarian and the Terminators will shoot everything at the Psychophage. The Librarian's going to use Focus Witchfire Smite. So I'll do that first. Gets 4 shots. Hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s, because he is in the Terminator unit, so he benefits from Fury of the First. So I'm re-roll the 1. And 6s are sustained hits because of his own rules. So that's 5 hits, wounding on 5. Ooh, 3 wounds, so -2.
5+ saves, made none of them.
Ooh, so 3d3 damage. There's 6.
5+ feel no pains. Shrug 2 of them, it takes 4 and is down to 6.
We've got the Assault Cannon, 6 shots on 2s, re-rolling 1s. 6s are sustained, so 7 hits. Wounding on 5, 6s are devastating wounds. 2 devastating wounds, but no others, so just 2 going through.
Straight to the feel no pain. Don't shrug either, it's down to 4.
And then all the Stormbolters, including the Librarian, will be 20 shots because they're all within 12 inches, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s. All in the box. Re-roll the 1s. So they all hit, and we've got 6 sustained hits there as well. So that's 26 hits. I don't have enough dice, so we'll do 2 batches of 13, wounding on 6s. 1 from the first batch, and 3 more from the second batch, so 4 in total.
3+ armour, failed 2, re-roll 1. Saved it, and then feel no pain for the last one, takes the damage, down to 3.
And the Librarian should take a hazardous test, and he does not roll a 1, so he's fine. The Captain's going to shoot his Stormbolter at the Termagants on objective 1, because if he kills the model, I gain 2 victory points. He hits on 2s, only 1 hit, and it wounds on a 3. No, it didn't. I'm going to re-roll that wound roll, because it might be worth it for 2 victory points. It is a wound.
So we have got Termagants in cover, so 4+, failed.
Ah, so it does gain me 2 victory points, and then we're on to the charge phase, where the Terminators are going to charge the Psychophage. They are -2 to this roll, though, so they're going to need a decent one. 7 reduced to a 5 is probably not enough. So I'll spend my command point to re-roll. A 10. That was reduced to an 8, and that should be in. So that was enough to get the Terminators in. They do so like that.
Yeah, but the Von Ryan's Leapers can use the heroic intervention stratagem for free, so they might as well try and get involved. They roll a 9, so they get them in. The Leapers can get in, and they fight first, so they get to go first. So 18 attacks, hitting on 3s. 10 hits, wounding on 4s. 6 wounds at -1.
So 6 3+ saves for Terminators. Third one. Yeah, so then the Terminators get to go. The Leapers went first because they have Fights First built in. You don't actually get the Fights First benefit of charging when you use Heroic Intervention. It's worth pointing that out. But I will put all of the Terminators and the Librarian into the Sarcophage because we need to get rid of it. I'll start with the Librarian. Benefits from Fury the First in melee as well, so these will be hitting on 2, 3 rolling. And a 6 is sustained. It also applies in melee, so the 5 hits. 5's to wound though. Well, 3.
4+ armour. Roll 2.
So 2d3 damage. 4.
Feel no pain. No, it dies. Does it explode? No.
So the Librarian actually did the job by himself. Terminators might have been able to hurt the Leapers, but never mind. And they've just consolidated to bring all of them onto the objective, which means I will control it, because there are 3 Leapers and 1 OC2 Termagant on it, which is less than 6 Terminator models. But that'll be the end of my turn, because the Leapers have already fought. And be on to Tyranid's turn 2.
So in my command phase, I only hold 1 objective, but that gets me 5. The Tyranid Prime has moved out, getting as close as he can to the Terminators while staying 12 away from the Infernus Marines. The Termagants near him are going to stay where they are. The Barb wants to move, so 4 of them can see the Infernus Marines, while 1 can see the Captain, because I want to apply slow to him. And the other unit of Termagants at the top are going to stay where they are for now. Start the shooting phase with the Barb Gaunts. 1 of them will shoot at the Captain, while the other 4 will shoot at the Infernus Marines.
And I'm going to use a command point for Gene Wrought Resilience on the Infernus Marines, so they are harder to wound with higher strength things.
Shooting at the Captain, this is the important one. 3 shots, hitting on 4s. We got 2 hits, wounds on 4s, 2 wounds.
No wounds, but he is slowed.
46 at the Infernus Marines, 19 shots. 19 shots on 4s. 10 hits, wounding on 4s, thanks to the stratagem. It's only 3 wounds.
Yeah, that did help. So 3 saves for them. I still failed 2 of them.
Just got Termagant shooting. The unit of 10 at the bottom will shoot at the Infernus Marines, while the unit of 9 at the top will shoot at the Captain. Throw the shots on the Infernus Marines because it might be relevant. 10 shots on 4s. 5 hits, wounding on 4s, getting 3 wounds.
3 more saves. Well, still another failed 2, so 1 guy's left on 1 wound. And there was 1 wound on the Captain, who has a 2+ save, he's fine. So that leaves 1 Infernus Marine left on 1 wound on objective 4.
And then the Tyranid Prime's going to charge the Terminators. He's in with a 2.
2 is enough, he wasn't just next to them.
Yeah, and I'll do the Tyranid Prime first, because there is the Sergeant on 2 wounds, so you might be able to finish him off. So we've got 6 attacks on 2s. Getting 5. Wounding on 3s for strength 6. Getting 4 at -1.
4 3+ saves. Failed 2, so the Sergeant does go down and a Terminator takes 2.
So the Leapers go next because they have flight first, and I'm going to spend a command point for Voracious Assault, which allows them to re-roll all hit rolls. So 18 attacks, re-rolling, hit on 3s, re-rolling misses, so we'll end up with 16 hits. But wounding on 4s, 5 wounds.
5 more 3+ saves. Failed another 3, so that will kill another Terminator. So only 3 Terminators and the Librarian left. They're going to put all their attacks into the Leapers, because the Tyranid Prime's minus 1 to hit thanks to his enhancement. I don't have Oath of Moment to counteract it. Start with the Librarian, 4 attacks on 3s. No rerolls, but I do get sustained. So only 2 hits, wounding on 3s. Double 1. And 9 Power Fist attacks also on 3s. There's a couple of sustained though, so that will be 7 hits. A couple of sustained though, so that will be 8 hits, wounding on 3s. 3.
So we've got 6+ invulnerable saves. Failed 1, so we'll lose a Leaper and another will be wounded. So I still control the objective.
So that will be the end of Tyranid's turn 2, on to Space Marine's turn 2. So battle success needed for the remaining Infernus Marine. This is important because otherwise I won't hold the objective. Leadership 6, he's fine. So that means I do hold objective 4. I'm also going to burn objective 2 with the Captain, so I will get 10 victory points for doing that, and I'll get another 5 because I held 2 objectives, which was the same number as the Tyranids, and I put Oath of Moment on the Tyranid Prime. And I spent a command point for Duty and Honour to secure objective 4 before that Infernus Marine gets destroyed. I also forgot to consolidate my Terminator, so I've just done that as well as my other movement. The only model that's actually moving is the Captain, who's moved his massive 3 inches towards the Leapers. The Termagants are too far away. The Infernus Marine is not going to move because he's already in range of the Termagants, and if he moves, they can reactive move and get more of themselves on the objective, and or overwatch him and probably kill him. So he's going to stay still. Which means in the shooting phase, he will fire his flamethrower at these Termagants, because it's the only thing in range. And I only got 1 wound out of that.
With a 5+ save, failed. Killed a Terminate.
And the Captain will shoot Storm Bolter at the Termagants on objective 1 again. Just about within 12, so 4 shots. They all hit. And only 1 wound. He's not very good at this.
4+ save. Yeah, I'll let you have it.
Another 2 victory points at least. So, charge phase, the Captain's going to declare a charge into the Von Ryan's Leapers. Needs to roll an 8 because he's within 6, but he's -2. Failed, but he gets a free reroll from his own rule. No, he does not make it. So he doesn't get into melee, which means that both of the Tyranid units get to go first. The Leapers go first because they have fights first, and then picking the Tyranid Prime.
We're going to use Voracious Assault this time, so 12 attacks on 3s, 11 hits, wounding on 4s. 7.
7 3+ saves. Failed 2, so wounded one dies, and another one takes a wound. So another one dies, and then the Tyranid Prime gets to go.
And it has 6 attacks on 2s, they will hit, and wounding on 3s. That's 4 wounds at -1.
4 more 3+ saves. Oh dear, I failed 3. So both the Terminators are dead, and the Librarian's left alone. So it's just the Librarian left. He will attack the Tyranid Prime because he's the oath of the moment target and gets rerolls to hit, but he doesn't get benefit of Fury the First nor his own rule anymore because the Terminators are gone.
And he's got -1 to hit, but with rerolls that's probably still better.
So he'll be hitting on 4s, but rerolling. Still can only manage 1 hit. Wounds on a 3? Nope. That'll be the end of Space Marine's turn 2. Not looking great, we've only got 3 models left. But we'll see what the Tyranids can do in their own turn 3.
So in my command phase I get 10 victory points because I hold 2 objectives, 1 and 3, which is more than the Marines. And my only movement is going to be the unit of termagants at the bottom who are going to advance, and they rolled a 6 to get over the barricade and get towards objective 4. Bargaunts are going to stay where they are because I think all 4 of them can see the Infernus Marine while 1 can see the Captain, which is what I really need. And the other termagants are fine in objective 1, really. Shooting phase, we'll do 1 Bargaunt on the Captain and the other 4 on the Infernus Marine. Do the shots on the Captain first, 6 shots on 3s. We hit him 6 times. And wounded 4 times.
2s, Captain takes a wound.
6 on the Infernus Marine. 19 shots again. 19 shots on 3s. 10 hits, wounding on 3s. 8 wounds at no AP.
8 saves, need to pass all of them. No, not. Oh, I only failed 1, but yeah, he's dead.
And all I've got left is termagants, and they might as well all shoot at the Captain. I'll just do both units at once, and we'll just show the result, the save rolls.
And they got 4 wounds. Captain makes all his saves. So just the ongoing combat to go.
So the Leapers go first. 12 attacks on 3s. 8 hits, wounding on 4s. 3 wounds at -1.
3s. 1 wound through already. I'll attack the Tyranid Prime because it's still the oath of the moment target, but hitting on 4s.
Rerolling.
But rerolling. Oh. Same as last time. 1 hit. With a wound.
With a 4+ invulnerable. Made it. You might as well use Voracious Assault just in case it gets any misses. So 2's rerolling. Didn't need it. 3's to wound. 4 at -1.
3's to save. Well, I made all the saves, so the Librarian is still alive at least. But yeah, I think I'll concede the game at that point because I have 2 models left, neither of which is currently or will be able to control an objective this turn. So that's 2 turns I'm not going to be getting any victory points in a row, except for possibly the Captain killing something. And Tyranids are already going to get their secondary this turn as well for taking objective 4.
I'll get 5 and go up to 20 at the end of this turn. I'll always control objective 1 probably, and if you try and go back to get objective 4 I can just burn it.
So yeah, it's just going to be a complete whitewash in terms of points, even if the Librarian does manage to prevail. The Captain might be able to go help him out, but then they'll both be stuck in the middle of the board. So we'll definitely call that a Tyranid victory and recap it for you now. Well, that was the 4th Combat Patrol mission. How do you think that game went?
Well, it went pretty about as well as it could have. Even though you built up an early lead and you killed the Sarcophage early, the Von Ryan's Leapers and the Tyranid Prime managed to clean up the Terminators fairly well, and your Infernus Marines basically didn't do anything, and neither did the Captain really.
Yeah, I wasn't actually too fussed about you going first in general, because if I'd gone first, well, the Terminator shooting might still have been reasonably good against the Psychophage, but the Infernus Marines wouldn't have been in range. I suppose I would have got a bit further forward, but then you might have just charged me with other things. But the Psychophage deleting half of my Infernus Marines before they got to do anything pretty much set the tone, I think. I feel like I failed at least half of my 3+ saves in that game.
Certainly for the Infernus Marines. Yeah, and I was able to whittle down the Terminators quite effectively. Even though the Librarian took down the Psychophage, he just didn't do anything. He failed to wound the Tyranid Prime. And there was that one turn you rolled about 7 1s to wound against the Leapers when you probably should have smushed most of them.
Yeah, if I'd known the Librarian was going to kill the Psychophage, the Terminators might have been able to have a go at the Leapers, but I was afraid of rolling badly and not killing it. And the Captain killed 2 Termagants with his Stormbolter because he was slowed down for most of the game.
Yeah, I think the Bargaunts were the correct choice again.
Yeah, I don't see what the Parasite of Mortrex would have done for you here.
Well, considering how few Infernus Marines you had left, I could have dropped it over there and used the Termagants to hang around Objective 3. Yeah, and I could have burnt Objective 4. I would have probably burnt it in turn 5 because that would have got me 5 more victory points than just holding on to it.
Yeah, the burning is an interesting mechanic because it does give you that 10 victory points straight away, but for example, it meant when I burnt the objective that you then held more than me in your turn, so you got an extra 5 that you wouldn't have got otherwise.
Probably is better for the Space Marines because they have have trouble holding on to objectives and want to be more mobile, but I think for the Tyranids you're fine just holding position because you've got so many models.
Yeah, the battle plan for the Space Marines in this one might actually be to take the other secondary objective, where you get 5 for taking an objective from the enemy, and then just sweep across the board with the Terminators, taking objectives and burning them, and securing the ones further back.
Although you don't actually need to have models on the objective to burn it, you only need to control it. So if you have ways to maintain control of objectives like the Space Marines or with battle line units, then you can afford to leave objectives. And I think the secondary objective, although if I'd chosen the other secondary objective I would have got 8 victory points from the Tyranid Prime, because he did kill some things for once. I think this is probably the better option with this, because you can't get rid of objective 4, so if I can just get a unit round the back, I can hold on to objective 4 and quite easily get it.
I suppose burning does have another advantage if your opponent has taken a secondary to take objectives off you, because if it's been burnt then you can't take them. But I also couldn't burn my home objective, so it wouldn't have helped me on objective 4 anyway.
Yeah, and we got the rules for aircraft, but there really is no point really talking about them in the terms of combat patrol, and they're really not very good in the full game. They are quite limited because they can't hide behind terrain or anything like that, so you can make them work, but most of the time you're better off with ground units.
Yeah, most of the factions in the game have an aircraft, and they're often pretty cool models, but usually you take them because they're interesting rather than because they're effective. They're usually just too expensive, which actually brings us on to points. The army building section is probably something you will want to look into if you're looking to branch out into playing larger games. If you're a hobbyist, you most likely will have at least thought about getting some more models beyond just combat patrol and playing some bigger games with them, so that is something you will need to learn. It's not particularly difficult to do, you just need to be able to add things up, and there are plenty of tools for doing that these days. There's the official app, and there are also some third-party ones on the internet.
All of the points are free, even if the rules aren't. Yeah, and we got our first texture paint. So yeah, once you get the base on any unit, sort of the stage where it starts looking finished. Quite often you do it last, depending on what my basing technique is. I will sometimes do it in the middle of painting if I can just wash everything at once. So like for the Silver Templars, I do the silver base coat on their armour and then do the textured base and then just wash everything with Nuln Oil. And the texture tool I think feels very cheap, but is actually quite good.
Yeah, the thing about texture paints is that they will ruin a decent brush, both because they're quite thick and gritty and you don't water them down like you would a normal paint, but also because you want to take quite a lot of them out of the pot at once, and you're usually using an implement to push the paint into gaps, like around the feet of a model, for example, which if you use a normal brush will quite quickly ruin the bristles. So you either want to use an old brush, or the texture tool is actually really handy for doing this, yeah. And as hinted at, in the next few issues we will be getting more faction rules for the Eldari and the Chaos Space Marines, so we'll finally bring them up to speed as full combat patrol factions, so hopefully we won't have to see Space Marines against Tyranids all the time anymore. But we've got that to look forward to, but I think that's about it. As usual, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you did enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. More combat patrol coming up. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.